This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshido. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do.
What's up, y'all? Hoots on the ground. And you're like, what? Where is Adam Hoots? Don't worry. Adam Hoots is right here producing for us. But don't forget, at LCI, we had our big old podcast where we broke down the podcast booth, and Hoots passed the keys of the Ferrari around to some old dogs. So today, it's Chiles Bros on the ground, Lean Builder podcast. Say hi, Brian.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Brian Chiles, Mike Chiles here, the Chiles Bros. And today, we have Heather Ormonde joining us again. Say hi, Heather.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. So glad to be here.
And we're excited to talk to Heather because she has so many new things that happened. She's already been on this show a couple years ago. And at that time, Heather, you were announcing the starting of your own company, Pursue Perfection Consulting. I want you to kick it off telling us, how has that gone so far?
It's been amazing. It's been a roller coaster ride. There have been some ups and the excitement of doing my own thing and really following my true passion and interest, and having the ability to focus on only those things that I want to invest my time has been amazing. But then there's the roller coaster, that there's always a downhill and some scary parts of realizing that you wear all of those hats. You are IT, you are communications and marketing and project manager and business development, and realizing that the fear of where's that next team or project or client going to be from, and there's always the, do I have the knowledge, or am I that little question in the back of your head about, do I have the ability to do this? Am I really the capabilities, and am I the right person, and am I gonna mess things up? So those are some of the scary sides of it. But for anybody that's thought about going out on their own, I just want to say, take that leap. It is beyond worth it. I very confidently can say I would never go back.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're talking about you got to be the lawyer, you got to be the marketer, you got to be all the things. And I am working at JE Dunn, which is a very large company. I'm very blessed to have all that support, and I appreciate that. Since then, you've been out. You're still in Oklahoma.
Yes.
How are you liking that area? Are you seeing lean progressing there as you've done your own thing over the last couple of years?
I've got a few local clients that I've worked with. I would say I feel like compared to other markets, a lot of GCs are all over the place. I still am seeing a regional lag. This particular company, their implementation and journey is far advanced on East and West Coast, as I see here in Oklahoma. That's a little less predominant, and it is a little slower and still lagging, I feel like.
No, I feel you. We're in Kansas City, and we started that interest group, and we're trying to get a little more conversation around lean going. And last time you were talking about, you were heading up that Oklahoma LCI. And I want to ask right now, just what advice do you have if you're trying to start up a COP and you're trying to get more conversations going? One thing I've seen is a lot of people already do lean concepts in their work, but they just don't know what it's called. And that's one thing I love about the old dogs and the no-bullshido is, hey, let's try to find all those people already doing awesome things and talk to about it, and not get us caught up on what the title of it is. But how do you go get people starting to talk the same language and starting to follow that as you're trying to start out a COP and what recommendations do you have for someone starting out?
I didn't truly understand the value of the owner, the power of the owner, until I worked on the owner's side. And when our community of practice, when I was on the owner's side, I feel like that was the most robust our community of practice was when we were having events at an owner's venue. It's the carrot, for lack of a better word, that, hey, if this is important to them, maybe I should learn about this and this should be important to me. It gives that automatic, there's a reason that I should learn or be open or want to learn about this. And from running a successful COP, the advice I would give is making sure that you've got enough support around your core team. And our core team, because we worked for different companies, we struggled with communication, the simplest thing. Oh, can we do Teams? No, my government account won't allow that, or just finding a way to communicate. I feel like the New Orleans community of practice, they did an amazing job of having a mural board where everything lived in one spot, but some people are resistant to a new platform. So finding something that works and making sure that everybody knows what's next, what's their role and responsibility. A big struggle we had, which is what inevitably led to LCI and us deciding to close our community of practice, was the commitment it takes to lead that community of practice and finding a replacement leader. I led the community of practice the entire duration of its journey.
Oh yeah, that's something we're talking about. How do you go get those leaders built up? That's something we're seeing right now.
What was your biggest hurdle that you were trying, when you were trying to get somebody to take over that leadership? What were people saying? What were the reasons that they either couldn't commit to take that over from you or anything like that? What were you seeing, and how did you go along there?
What I saw was, I don't want to, you're doing such a great job. There's no way I could fill those shoes. I don't know enough about lean to lead this. I think there's this perception of, I have to be this expert, and I'm not an expert at your level, so I can't go in. And I think that's where I should have said, okay, have you managed a team or a project? Have you taken a leadership role in something or other community things? And really broken those roles down into, what's that time commitment? What's the expectation? And things like that. I think one advantage that we did that worked really well was, for our events for the year, we had it, instead of just the event chair, we had it a champion for each event. And hey, all I need you to do is take this one event. You're the lead for that. We've still got all this support, but just you own this one.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about being an expert of all, because obviously the event that you're hosting is something about that.
And honestly, you just sparked something for me, because I know we talk about Ted Lasso at nauseum, but this is about a football coach who went over and coached soccer, and it didn't matter that he wasn't a soccer expert. He didn't know anything. He didn't even know how many people were on the field. He just knew leadership, and he knew how to take charge. And that's what we need to find for our COP, is who is passionate enough to do it. They don't need to be the lean expert. That's why we have people that do that. We just need somebody to take the reins and drive that cart. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I feel like our core team was made up of higher level professionals that are further along in their career, which have a lot more burden for their time. And we didn't have lower, it was like, oh, I'm going to be the lead for my company because I'm a lead manager, or I'm a this. That makes sense. We had president of a company, we had project manager for electrical company, and we didn't have those journeymen, those lower entry level that have the capacity that could go take on, and the energy, like you just said, and that passion.
Yeah, the energy and passion. you're right. That ultimately is what you need. And just like we start walking as people before we know the theory of walking, I think that's why it's so important that you try something, right? And do something and just start walking. And then the thing is, as you learn from that, you get to start telling people what you're learning. Now, people can argue with theory, but they can't really argue with what you're learning. So I think that's something that we are missing as we try to go create more lean leaders, is we're trying to get people that already are established experts. And what we need are the people that are like boots on the ground, doing something because they're excited about it. They don't know what it's called. And then we're like, what are you seeing from that? How's that changing? How's that making work feel better? And I know that's something we're trying to grab those trade people that are working on our jobs and trying to get them into the COP. But yeah, trying to find that those people that can dedicate time to run some things or that you can lean on there. I think that's where our focus needs to be in 2026, because we don't have that backfill established at all right now.
Connecting with other industry organizations, we did a little bit with AGC, but ABC, our electrician core team member, he went down and coordinated with the local trades school, and they loved us coming and speaking and presenting and doing something there. Every organization is always looking for speakers. Okay, let's do something. And it sometimes gets challenging with LCI. We want it to be our event and register through us. But okay, we're gonna come and speak on this lean topic at AGC or AIA, for example. Okay, we're gonna put it all together, and now I'm gonna create this other event through LCI. And if LCI people come and register, they're going to register through mine. The AIA people are going to register through theirs, and do something along those lines. I think that helps with cross-pollination. And then the last thing I'll say is, I know with the new platform that LCI has, I think that's gotten a lot better, but we had a struggle with people registering and getting access and seeing things. So we used where do people's calendars live? Where does their information about meetings? Keep it simple, keep it where they are used to. So we would create events. We had our Lean Coffee was reoccurring. It was the same. It was the first Tuesday of the month, reoccurring for, I don't know how many years. So everybody just knew. And then we would adjust if there was a holiday. So you build that rhythm, and having it on an Outlook calendar or a Google Calendar invite, sending that out really helped with people. Oh yeah. And then in that invite, here's the link to register, things like that, so that those invites and that communication doesn't get sent to people's spam and they miss out.
Oh yeah, that's good info. I appreciate that insight. Thanks for letting us pick your brain a little bit on LCI. You're talking about keep it simple, so I want to change gears a little bit and talk about the simplest owner to work for, and that's the government. The first time I saw you, you're actually working, was it Flinko, I want to say? And you were working, and your story at LCI was talking about how you were working with the government, which we know has a lot of steps, a lot of process. I'm working with the government right now. Worked with the government for over 10 years, and I'm aware of all those processes that you have to do and the layers that you have to do. But that was a little bit of the story I told too. So I want to get your perspective, because I think that there's an important lessons there on, even if we have a lot of steps, or even if we have a contract that doesn't necessarily say you have to go work everybody all together, there's still some things you can do to still make life better for the people working on your job. And I want you to tell us a little bit just give us a little bit of that, how you work with the government, some of that success that you saw there, just trying to do the right thing for the team there.
That was, I will say, that project was probably my construction in heaven project. The owner was Corps of Engineers, and he was a speaker. He was bought in 100%. But like you say, government and layers of rules and regulations, he had a bad experience with lean. and had a really bad taste. Oh yeah, we've done that. The government forced that on us in a negative way. And what we did was we looked at, okay, how does design build? What does that look like? And why are you so passionate about that? Why do you see that as the way to build? Okay, let me show you how that's similar to lean and where the intent is and what that looks like. And at the end of that project, he was such the naysayer, so against it. That just means more meetings and more work. What he came and told me was, in my over 30-year career, it's the first project that ever finished on time. And it's one of the most successful projects I've been a part of. I'm not saying it's because of lean, but it is the first project I've done. It was where he left it at. That's all he'd give me. But when we did the after action review for that project, we had the architect on, the architect team, the engineering team, trade partners, just that true IPD kind of experience of everybody on this call. The owner wanted it to be like 2.5 hours. And it was, oh, this worked really well. Oh, we learned about this, and next time let's do it this way. Or just, it was truly lessons learned. It was no finger pointing. I was in awe at how everybody just came to share their perspective and to make the team. We were a team. We were truly a team.
That's awesome.
And that relationships team on the next project and went to do more work together and was really successful.
Yeah. I'm just hearing relationships. You establish great relationships, and government contracts are layered because it's low in trust, and they want to make sure everybody's doing things the right way. And when we can build trust with the relationships of the people on the ground building that, the government has some good things in their contract, but we get stuck on the letter sometimes instead of like the intent and the goal on why those were created to begin with. And sometimes we just need to stop and go back to, what do we ultimately want to see here? And I think the key is there. It sounds like you built really great relationships, which I'm sure that took some. Initially, you walk in, we're talking about building relationships. You have to build relationships to run a community practice. You got to build relationships to go into a government job with big teams and try to go get everybody aligned. Your pursue perfection is some of that. I'm sure a lot of that is related to pursuing those intentional relationships. So how do you come in, hit the ground blind, and how do you start working into building those relationships?
It's getting to asking a lot of questions, being curious, and getting to know people. What's their goal for this project? What's their passion? What do they feel that the strengths that they bring to the team, and what just lights them up? If you start asking questions and hear what people are interested in, that starts to build that trust. And then you find common ground. There is this amazing video. It's actually a Heineken commercial. And I think it truly breaks down what does that look like. The commercial is about 6 different individuals. There's 3 groups. And of those 3 teams, they are polar opposites on very controversial topics. But they throw them into a room as complete strangers. They have to build something together, build something independently. Then they find common ground of what similarities do they have together. Then they have to build something as a team together. And then they find out, actually, you have all these varying polaring opinions. Do you want to sit and talk about it over a beer, or do you want to leave? And it's finding a common ground. And what led to that team being so successful is we felt like we were a team. And I think the challenge with government, because of all those regulations, is the contract is very, I'm going to protect myself, and there's not that trust, which doesn't lead to we're on the same team and we have the same goals to successfully provide this product or this hospital or whatever it may be for, here's the end patient or here's the end user. And if we keep it focused on what's that common goal, we can build that trust but I have experience. My very first construction project was also a government project, and it became a Murphy's Law because there was no trust.
I hate to ask, but was that the JE Dunn one?
It was not.
Oh, okay, good. Because I do know there was some time that you spent at JE Dunn, correct?
I did.
Yeah. That's funny. I got Hoots, I think, found the link to that. We'll have to try to get that up later. But the Heineken commercial, the only thing I remember of the Heineken commercials is the holiday 5-pack. So this is quite a bit different. I'm hoping that that can get out for all the listeners to hear. But that's cool. That's another thing that I like is whether it's movies or kids in classroom. I always learn a lot when I walk in to meet your teacher. But there's all kinds of things that they have posted on the walls and great things you can learn no matter where you're at. And I heard you say be curious. And that's obviously us as Lasso fans. That's one of our favorite quotes from Ted is be curious, not judgmental. And you can learn from anybody and anywhere. And I think we just always, as we're leaders, we need to always be learning, never not learning. And,
Humble and curious.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff. So then I saw you again at LCI. I took a class, Rex Miller's class, and I love Rex Miller, love his stuff. And he's such a great guy. And how did you guys meet, and how did you begin to start teaching that class with him at LCI?
I met Rex at an LCI Congress. I can't remember which one it was. My first LCI Congress was 2014 in San Francisco. I attended when I worked with JE Dunn. And it was probably around 2016, I don't know, 2017 or somewhere in that range that I attended his high performing teams workshop, and just was so resonated with the content because it really speaks to where my focus on my lean journey is around that respect for people piece. It's what we were just talking about. It's trust, it's communication, it's building that team and having those relationships. And I was so impacted by that training. When I went to the owner's side, I tried to bring him in to do a team building for a project that I was helping or involved with. And unfortunately, we weren't ever able to get things. It was a little too late in the game and we didn't get it going, but we built that relationship. And in 2023 or 24, when Rex released his newest book, Genius Spark, he had a retreat down at his ranch, and I went and attended and became a certified Genius Spark facilitator and trainer. And the relationship built from that. And at that retreat, we started talking about LCI. There were a lot of others there that had been to Congress and that we knew each other. And he said, hey, we just started brainstorming and let's do this together. And so 2024, we did it together for the first time. And it was so successful. We ended up taking that half-day workshop and we did it twice because it filled up so quickly. And then this year we did it again. And it was very successful again this year.
I think in lean, you hear a lot of, you ask, what does lean mean? It means respect for people, continuous improvement. What is respect for people? When you break that down, what do you think that means? We like to say it's not just being nice, but what do you think it means to you?
Actually, I see so many, it's a great question, and so many people struggle with how do I define that and what does that look like? I'm actually right now going through, and I believe it's an 18-week class that is respect for people. And it has just been an amazing class. If you want to learn more about how do I actually do respect for people and show that, it's very looking at your own self and how are you respecting yourself at a personal level and personal development, but then also taking that to others. So to answer your question, it's around communication, showing trust, showing responsibility, like commitments. And hey, I'm going to, a really practical one that I always like to say is, or ask people, what's your preferred communication? I want to communicate to you in a way that you're going to not only be open to it, but receive it the best, because then we're going to have a more effective relationship. If you know what, you don't like text messages or emails or a place where things go to die, you'd rather a phone call or a face-to-face conversation. Just that's one way you can show respect for people. Knowing what your actions, how they impact others is a big thing. And being cognizant and aware of that, to have more emotional intelligence, is a big piece, which are a bunch of big words that don't mean much to most people. There, it's talking about different cognitive biases in this class and how we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. So there's a great story of a guy that you see painted. You've all seen the road where the road striper has gone around something or gone over the roadkill, right? We talk about that, and we immediately often assume that person is lazy or it's a moral, it's their character. But in reality, what's the story behind this? Why did that happen? Oh, they were told that morning by their boss, you've got to get this number of mileage or you're going to lose your job. So stop focusing on quality and meet the numbers.
Yeah, good point.
We don't think that. We immediately think it's a personal, and I'm going to give you another video reference is there's a Chick-fil-A commercial.
Yeah.
Self in someone else's that's respect for
Yeah.
people.
That's one of my favorites.
Stories are, and asking them, taking the time to learn what their stories are, what their challenge is, why did they do something the way they did. That's what respect for people is. I love what Jennifer Lacey always says, do change with people, not to people.
Yeah.
That's for people.
The two things you brought up in my mind was Dr. Deming. So let's look at the process first and then the person. So that's huge. And then DISC is a big thing that we do here, the communication styles. But there's so many times where like you talked about, I'll misdiagnose somebody. I'll be teaching a lean class and I get this 50-year-old super in there that I think is going to hate this class and he's going to think it's too touchy-feely, all this stuff. And then that person ends up being the person that loved the class the most. And I think in construction especially, we just label people as soon as we see them and we think we know what they're going to be like and who they are. And we almost don't take the attempt to get to know them because we think we already have them figured out. And I think that respect for people is making sure that we don't misdiagnose people by not diagnosing them at all. And also making sure that respect for people isn't, if people are doing the wrong thing, letting them continue to do the wrong thing and not correcting it is not respecting them. You're not respecting the owner, the project, anything. So you triggered those in my mind. And so that was a great answer. I appreciate that.
I'll give you one practical way you could apply this to a project right now that you're on. You said those labels, it's Sparky, it's pipe fitter. Hey, your name's Tom. Hey, your name's Mike. Just saying, hey, I want this to be a first name project team. And I want to know you on a first name basis and your story and your family and who you're going home safe to. And so I'd love to put name tags on your hard hats if you'd be willing to do that. And this is why. And taking that, often GCs will do that internally, but we don't. And we don't take the time to slow down at a meeting and say, everybody go around and introduce what's your name or something along those lines. It's just, even our phase plans and our Post-its, they're often listed by company name and not who's that person. And maybe that's instead of company name, because that may not be intuitive. It's Bob the plumber or so-and-so the electrical wizard. Giving some kind of alter ego name to those Post-its or those people to start to build those.
In a small version of that, I saw at a project in, I think it was Atlanta. And I was there, we were doing a trade partner meeting and I was just observing. I was new to JE Dunn. And most of the time in the trailer, you'll see the JE Dunn emblem, and then you'll see handwritten everybody else's trade. What they did is they printed everybody's company label. So on the board, it didn't show JE Dunn in special letters and then handwritten everybody else. It showed everybody else as equals. Like little things like that just trigger me. I'm just like, yes, like that's making sure everybody feels like this is a team effort. It's not JE Dunn and the rest of you. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying there.
It's like sports. How do they build team? Everybody's got the same jersey and they've got their name on the back.
Yep. And we're getting into baseball season. Brian's a huge baseball fan. We love the Royals. Go Royals. And I'm telling you, how do you differentiate teams? It's the bench strength. And I think that's one thing too to think about is the bench strength is so important and not any different. No one sitting on the bench is any less qualified or less capable, but good leadership, we have to have a good bench. We have to have bench strength. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing to have people that are willing to step up if someone else isn't able to do something. We all have different seasons of life. We all have things that happen. And when you're on a 2-3 year job, I know my kids from the time I'm starting a job to finishing a job, totally different world, right? And there are seasons that people go through and there's things that happen to people. And when we have everybody aligned on the same page, they're able to jump in. And we got that strong bench strength where people can help each other out and we can flow together. Everybody has value on a job and is equally important.
Yeah. And you mentioned about DISC, and another great resource that I love to use is the Genius Spark assessment. So that uses the Clifton's strengths assessment because everyone's brain is wired a little differently and we all have unique strengths. There are 34 traits in the Gallup strengths assessment, and finding out what everyone's natural strengths and talents are, to leverage those, to have that more, to know what your bench really looks like and who to call on for which type of challenge or role is a phenomenal way to not only have a more successful team, but also to get more engagement and everybody to feel like they are contributing and a valued member.
Yeah, and this is good, like the bench strength and talking about the value of everybody and optimizing the whole, really. This leads me into what I really wanted to talk to you about today, and that was the bomb you dropped on us in our last Old Dogs. And I like how it's framed as the strength there, but I want to talk about the strength of neurodivergence, and I want you to talk a little bit about that journey. So first off, what does neurodivergent mean? And second, tell us how you got introduced into that journey a little bit.
Okay. That's neurodivergent. I realize a lot of people, that may be a new term. And at a high level, neurodivergent means that our brains are naturally wired differently. It's a normal part of human variation. Just we need glasses. Some people's bodies process insulin and produce insulin, and some don't. Everyone is different. And the example I will give is a reference about computers. So there's the Mac world, there's the PC world, right? That makes up the largest part of the world using Microsoft and PC. But then there's those Mac users. And it's not that one is better than the other. They're different and they've got their own unique strengths. But if anybody's ever tried to open up a Word document on a PC, on a Mac, it wasn't meant for that. It wasn't designed for that. So that's how I like to explain what neurodiversity is. Neurodiversity is the way your brain is wired. And it's called neurotypical, is what is the Windows world. And then neurodiversity is how I'm giving the example of the Mac world. That includes people with autism, people with ADHD, people with dyslexia, and there are several other neurodevelopmental conditions. If you want to get the scientific way, it's the neurodevelopmental conditions. With ADHD, I'll give you a little bit more background. It consists of three things. It's attention regulation is what's affected, impulse control, and executive functioning. And what I mean by executive functioning is it's how we activate or how we organize and prioritize things. It's our focus, being able to sustain focus on things and shifting our attention. It's the effort and regulating alertness or sustaining effort, taking that project to that completion, or starting a bunch of tasks and then maybe not getting to finish them. Emotion is managing frustrations when we've got a demand on our time. How do we handle that? Do we quickly get agitated and frustrated, throw our hard hat? That's never happened. And then memory. You are working memory, recalling that name or that detail or that location of something. Oh man, there was something I needed to do and I didn't write it down and now I've forgotten it. And then the action piece of monitoring your self-regulation. So those are the kind of 6 categories that fall under executive function. And those sound probably really familiar to most of you because they're struggles that are, it's a human condition. What the difference is with ADHD is that you're affected by those. They affect the way you function on a daily basis. And that's at work, in your personal life. If those things are affecting your functioning, that's when, and there's a certain number of those struggles or those traits that have to affect you for you to be diagnosed with ADHD. It's something that is genetic. 99% of identical twins, if one has it, the other one does. Women are unfortunately drastically missed and underdiagnosed. 60% of women are underdiagnosed or not diagnosed.
Wow.
Another thing around ADHD is if you are undiagnosed or unmedicated and not treating it, the research has found that you have a 7-year lower life expectancy.
Really?
Yeah. And as children, for those of you who are parents, children who have ADHD, neurodivergent or ADHD, by the age of 10, have heard 20,000 more negative comments than a neurotypical child.
Wow.
And thinking about how does that affect who they become, how they feel about themselves, their confidence, and the rest of their life.
And so this crossed into your work, right, with construction, and you're like, how is this in our industry? So tell us about how those cross paths, the construction industry, your lead journey, and the neurodivergence.
3 or 4 years ago, I had a friend come to me and ask about ADHD. She was recently diagnosed. And she said, oh, tell me about your ADHD. I was like, and like many other people, I was like, what? I don't know anything about ADHD. And I don't have that. In school I struggled. School was always hard for me and was assessed to find out why did I struggle so much. They found that I had a learning disability in reading. I'm honestly, I can't read subtitles in movies. I'm that slow of a reader. And nothing was ever mentioned about ADHD. So I didn't understand. This friend says, oh, you've got it. Go read about it. So I started learning. And that's where, like this information that I just gave you, I started diving into books and podcasts and learning as much as I could about it and what it is, how it affects people. And I just gave a bunch of negative things, but it's not all doom and gloom. And it was life altering for me when I found out about ADHD and I went and got diagnosed. Because when I looked at all these traits, some of them that I just listed off, and then I looked at the things I'd struggled my entire professional career, the things I had constantly been working to make better, to fix, to improve, to just try harder, I realized they were the same. And what that gave me was, it's not me. It's not a moral failing on me to be struggling with these, to have these failures. It's how my brain's wired. And the relief that gave was just life-changing. It's the reason I can talk about it right now, because it's not personal. It is personal, but it's not a flaw. It's a diagnosis. Just like someone that needs glasses. Your eyes process information differently. You need glasses. And so then as I start learning more about it, and you ask, what about construction? There's a little bit of research and a little bit of information out there around ADHD in construction. And what little exists is really surprising. In the general population, they say that there's 1 in 7 people have ADHD. And some research found in the construction industry, that number is 1 in 4 that are neurodiverse.
Interesting.
And then if we look at ADHD, general population is 4%. From the research that's been gathered in the construction industry, that percentage is 14%. So that's a significant, from 4% to 14% from the general population to construction. And another industry to compare, not that I want to make a comparison between construction, but another high population density that has ADHD is incarcerated individuals. They've found that 8% of incarcerated individuals, which is double the general population, but it's one of the highest industries. And there's a lot of great reasons why that is. It's the fast pace, it's the changing, it's the learning with your hands, it's the getting out, it's the I didn't have to go to school path. It's high stress and high demand and visual rewards of seeing things happen. And of the research, they said that's their ADHD is what drove them to the construction industry.
So what do we do with this information? So like anybody listening or us, how can we use this information, these studies, and make it better in the construction industry?
It goes back to that respect for people piece. It's realizing that we all process information differently, just like my question about communication and what's your preferred communication style. That's one piece. And what on this journey of learning about this, what it allowed me to realize about myself, you often get asked, why lean? What does lean mean to you? What I realized as I've got to know myself more, lean was the answer. Lean helped me accommodate the struggles that I faced with ADHD.
Amen.
It provided resources and tools. It's looking at 5S. Okay, I'll give an example. How does ADHD show up? Think of a wall. You're in a sports bar and there's a wall of there's just ceiling to floor TVs. And there are different channels. Everyone's on a different station. That's what an ADHD brain is. That's how much information you're bringing in and you're aware of at one time. And that can be hard if you're getting that much information. How do I focus on? Which one's the priority? They're all on fire. They're all at the red zone, and I need to watch every single one of them. So those are some of those struggles. 5S, right? Let's sort. Let's find out what's really important and let's get rid of the noise. Let's turn all those other TVs off. Let's straighten and put the things at their point of use is a big piece. Losing your keys, losing things, not knowing where to find them. If you put it where it's going to be used, then that's going to prevent that frustration and that challenge. Another thing to think about is the big piece is the executive function. And executive function is like a bank. You've got so much power in that bank at the beginning of the day. And every single decision you make takes a little of that bank. So the more you can automate things, the more you can make things visual, the more you can standardize things, reduces your load of using that executive functioning. So when you get into that afternoon contractor meeting and things are frustrating, you've still got some of that executive functioning to not lose your temper, to take a step back and to focus and to make sure you're able to reach what you're trying to do.
Yep. Two things you just sparked in my brain was it seems like common sense, but people don't think about it. 5S can help with overstimulation. Like if there's too much going on, crazy. And then 5S'ing information is an interesting one because it's like if we're telling our trade partners everything, then we didn't sort it. We didn't straighten it. We didn't stand it. We didn't do that part before we gave it to them. We just said, here's a pile of information. You do it. That's not, we're here as a GC. We're here to help them make sure that we're able to give them, here's the information you need. If you need more, let me know. But here's what I'm going to give you. If you need more, come let me know.
Instead, we do CYA, and this new RFI or this new change doesn't affect you at all, but I'm going to send it to you just in case, because I don't want to take the time to know if it affects you. And so now you miss the really important one because I just gave you 5.
That's why I love Scrum so much, because I get overwhelmed easily and all that stuff. And that's why get it all out there, throw it all up there. And then your 5S piece is that's organizing. How are you going to attack it one sprint at a time, right? And get it to where what's the priority and just march through it. And it takes the overwhelming piece out of that. And I love what you're saying there on bringing just so much meaning into why is this important, everybody, that we start looking at lean practices and following lean practices? Because if we can make things visual, if we can make it to where you can walk up to a wall and understand what's going on in the project in 5 minutes, that's helping everybody keep some of that brain power, executive function going so that they can go focus on the other things and not have to worry about expending all of their energy and all of the bank to go say, okay, here's what I'm supposed to do this week. And it's just helping everybody work smarter, not harder. And it's making it visual and making it easy to understand and pick up. And I love how it's giving lean to me a whole new meaning and a deeper level on, guys, this is important for the people on our job sites, because we do have a vast majority of people that have there's different strengths, there's different weaknesses, right? And there's different makeups that they all have. And we want to be able to get everybody on that same page. And when you keep it simple and you keep it visual, that puts everybody on the same page very quickly. So I think I love all that conversation. And I do want to lock into on the difference in the strengths, because optimizing the whole, if you are someone who is diagnosed with dyslexia, you are going to see things totally different than other people on your team. And I can't tell you, there is a list, I'm sure you can Google quickly, but CEOs, top execs, a lot of dyslexia lives in those levels because there is a grind and there is just a hard work ethic that you pick up from day one, because you have to go figure out a different way to understand the things. And you have to go work hard to go get your information. And in that, you were looking and seeing things in a whole new way. And you were bringing such a level of strength to that team, because when other team members are seeing something a certain way, you'll see it a different way. And then if we optimize that whole and we truly are curious about all those different ways, we're going to find some better ways that no one else would have thought about if we didn't have the neurodivergence present. So I want to point out that, just double down on what you're saying on, it's a difference, but it's a strength, and it's just how we're wired, and we can use all that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a story. It's 1 in 4 in the construction population have these different brains. And someone you've probably not heard of, her name is Temple Grand. She is autistic and has completely transformed the autistic, everything around autism. When her mother went to find out what was wrong with her, this was I believe it was in the 50s. The doctor actually told her what caused autism was the mother not providing the right level of love and support at a critical age caused autism. That's what doctors thought. And that's the thing around neurodivergence is there's medical professionals don't know about it. The amount of psychologists that are completely unaware of what ADHD is and those traits, but I'm getting off on a tangent. What Temple Grand and her autism, she went to school. She went and got a master's and a PhD, and she completely transformed the US cattle processing industry because of her unique strengths, because of her pattern recognition and such a visual thinker that she could see what affected the cows, that increased stress, and change the complete design of how the processing plants and the feedlots were designed so that it nature pulled instinctively the cattle to go through the process. Less prodding, less people, less stress, less injuries. And she completely changed it because, like you say, she thought and saw things differently. And that's why the construction industry is so drawn or so interesting for neurodiverse people. And Temple is in a recent keynote, she actually said, as a construction industry, you should be intentionally seeking out neurodiverse people because of their pattern recognition, their creativity, their problem solving under pressure, their attention to detail. It's those superpowers are very unique. There's, I believe, it's a staggering percentage of entrepreneurs that have ADHD, like you said about autism or dyslexia and CEOs and leaders and stuff. And so, yeah, it's not all negative.
The quick numbers up here. It's either could be 1 to 5 of execs. Some studies show almost 1 every 2 execs have some kind of neurodivergent, let's call it superpower, right? So there's definitely strengths there to utilize. And our industry, we're seeing that right now of we need workers in the field. We need people that want to be hands-on, that want to go be active and moving around. And we pushed, as a country, we pushed college a lot when we were growing up. And that was just what that was the goal after high school. And you're seeing more and more now that the trades and the STEM stuff and all the CIC. I'm on this job site right now. We're building the CIC, helping connect industry to high school. And there's so many places where the neurodivergent can bless everybody, right? And I think that's just an important thing. And I love how you respond. I love how you took that journey to go say, hey, I'm going to get diagnosed and I'm going to just see where I'm at. And then now that you know where you're at, you're like, okay, how can I use this to go build upon my strengths? But also, how can I as someone here, how can I better understand this situation so that I can go help the industry and help others that are struggling with this or may not be able to put a connection to why they're having struggles with certain things. So what are you planning to do with all this research, and how are you going to keep getting this word out, Heather?
Just 2 years ago, this podcast became the catalyst for me. Honestly, I announced that I was starting my business on the podcast, and it was that leap that I needed to go and do that really scary thing of going out and betting on myself. And so over the last 2 years, as I've learned more about ADHD, and then I've been starting my business and working on my lean coaching and helping out, I had this mindset that I needed to stay focused to be effective. And it was either the ADHD side of me, or it was the lean construction and my business. And what I've now realized is I want to bring my whole self to everything that I do and stop compartmentalizing who I really am, because seeing how predominant it is in construction, I want to use that and share that with others to provide more support, to provide those resources and raise, and how can we help and connect those things to, hey, here's a lean tool and this is how it helps if you process information differently, but it also helps anybody with anything, and not keep those two worlds separate. And so that's where this is the first time I've really honestly said, hey, I have ADHD, and there are two types, inattentive and hyperactive, and I have combined types. So I experience challenges from both sides and advantages to both sides. I'm that Energizer bunny that just never runs out of energy. And so what do I want to do with this? I want to first raise awareness about reducing the stigma of neurodiversity and ADHD. I see so many, especially like parents, oh, I don't want to give them that stigma. If something wasn't right, if there was something that you struggled your whole life, wouldn't you want to know what it is? Because the relief it provided to me was life-changing. And let's call it the thing and not be ashamed of that, because it is a superpower. I want to connect the traits and the struggles that are ADHD to what does that look like on a project site? How do people experience that? And how do we make it easier? Lean, to me, the respect for people is making life easier for everybody. And that's those working behaviors. I want to learn, I want to do more research to really get more data and accurate numbers of what that looks like. And I see this affecting safety. There's some data around, we know our safety issues with the industry. The suicide rate is such a hot topic. If people are unaware, undiagnosed, they're self-medicating, the addiction propensity and things like that. Also, we all have seen the numbers, which is our biggest selling point for lean, is productivity. And compared to other industries, how does that affect distractibility if you think everything's a priority, and some of those neurodivergent struggles? So I think there's so much that if we as an industry started looking at how do we make this a workplace and our projects accessible to all different processing and all different individuals, what that could do for those things, and making it an environment that's welcoming to neurodivergent individuals, as Temple Grand had said, it really might help us change those numbers of, is it 5 or 6 superintendents that leave and only one comes back, and our manpower issue.
Yeah, I love it.
I love how you were able to marry your passions, because you had two passions and you were able to marry them together. Same background. I was a project manager and I've been a coach before. So lean was a way for me to do both. And when people are able to marry their two passions, I think they're unstoppable. So I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate you realizing that you could marry those and you didn't have to choose, which is great.
I love it. And you're with Rex, and I just visualized, I remember from the class, you talked about DISC, but I love how you took the whole room and you quickly had people go to different corners of the room based off the letters, and you were just listing out characteristics. And I just see that on a job site of, you could probably do something there with neurodivergence and just kind of just show the room really quickly. Hey, when the characteristics, not necessarily titles, but hey, if you like to read things this way and you like to see things this way, and you can see the makeup on how do we go get everybody there aligned on the same page, it's probably going to look a lot like lean tools, right? And I think that's a quick way to help them see the why on why is this important. Because look, half your room here, you give them the CPM schedule and they're going to be like, whoosh, and it's gone. So half, I say probably like 90%, but it's important. Like if we want to be successful as a whole team here, we have to go connect and align everybody on that team, right? And everybody sees things a little differently, and we can use those strengths, those superpowers as we're planning. And execs that have neurodivergence are going to see things a different way and be able to go connect dots that others can't connect. And we're going to have awesome stuff if we use all those superpowers.
Yeah. And like you said, with the DISC thing, is you could, to building that trust in that team, is start to talk about some of those struggles of, hey, there's this thing called time blindness, and it's not understanding the passage of time. And who here's ever been waiting for a meeting to start, and I'm going to check my email real quick, and you look up and you're 5 minutes late to the meeting because you didn't realize that passage of time. Everybody can relate to that struggle and say, okay, so we're going to try to use this lean tool to overcome that. And Who here's been that person that interrupts, and you're interrupting people in meetings, and because you just want to get that thought out and you don't want to forget things? That's a common ADHD thing. We're going to use this guy over here, this little Elmo tool, and that's going to help us. So just talking about those traits that everyone can relate to, and normalizing it, and making people feel like, wow, it's not just me struggling, and they really care, and we're going to try to overcome these struggles together. And these lean tools are going to really help us with that.
Yeah. And so the challenge the leader is create that environment, and you need to be vulnerable and show the person side of you so that it makes it a safe place to do that. We've been rolling for a good hour, Heather, and it's been awesome information. I'm excited to see what you do next with this, if we're implementing it into classes or speaking at LCI, or if we're going to, I don't know, maybe be putting some stuff on paper. We'll have to see how this research comes together.
I do, and I'll put this out there for the accountability, but I do want to put together, write a book, do something to put this information out there and to make these connections of these situations in our industry, and how those relate to common ADHD struggles, and what are those lean tools that you can go reach for that are going to help you and support you along the way of trying to get more out there, trying to figure out where that right source or that right media piece is. For a long time, is it a podcast? To me, I'm a visual. I process information visually. I'm not a reader. I already said that. So that's where, and I think that's where a lot of people in our industry are. So I feel with lean, the struggle is a lot of the information that's out there, that's been developed, is for those engineer types that like to read, and not for the people who process information by learning by doing and hearing things and not reading things. And that's where I want to give lean information in a format that's digestible to the customer that really needs it.
Well, unfortunately, we're all old dogs. And so we're all about knowledge share. And so you're going to research, you're going to share this knowledge. I don't know, maybe it turns into a book, but I think one thing we have to do is we got to get this into schools. We got to figure out how to go get to the students where we show them like, hey, these are superpowers, and these are little hacks that we've learned as we've worked through this stuff in the industry. We got some lean practices that might help you with your schooling, and get them to where they can look forward to learning as we start giving them tools to help them be more effective. And I think a Scrum for Teens is a great way to help visualize your way through projects. AI stuff that can read to you. I use that all the time, where I don't like to read much either, Heather, and I'm more of an audio book kind of person. And if I can copy something into something where it'll read it to me, I will retain it and take notes and be good to go. But if I got to read it, I'm probably going to get sleepy in about 10 seconds. So those are all little hacks that we've picked up, just how we get through our job. And we need to share that definitely with students, as we're already trying to get more involved in schools to get people introduced to construction, because we need workers on the job site, and we have a major shortage of that right now. And that is not a bad thing to go from high school into the trades. It's a wonderful thing, and it's a blessing to many people who have many good careers. And we need to show them in school that they've got superpowers there that they can use to bless our industry and bless the world.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. All right. Any final thoughts, comments, Heather, before we wrap up for this time?
I will say, if I could tell my younger self, you're not broken, you're wired differently. And there are so many amazingly successful people who are neurodivergent. Michael Phelps, Albert Einstein. There's just a long list, and not just in the construction industry, in medical, ER, surgeons, because that pressure, that being able to work under pressure and high demand and staying calm really are successful. Education as well, like you had mentioned in education. Those are some of the other industries that we see it a lot. But lean is, that future for growing a focus on people and inclusion, work that truly works for everyone. In the design world, they talk about universal design, and that's where bringing it back to that respect for people piece is, are we respecting the people that we're working with and providing them the best working environment for them to perform at their peak?
Love it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for the time here. Hoots producing in the background. Hoots is still on the ground, and the Chiles Bros coming to you. Thank you so much, Heather, for all of your insight. We love the information. And everybody, go get that industry better, man. Use those superpowers, and let's go make our industry better.